Art of observation is knowing you God, just observing itself through the human form. I repeat, the art of observation is knowing that you God, and observation of itself, having experience with itself through a human form. That's important. You know, that's important. Not only to be conscious of that, but to know why you conscious of that. And salute to the people that's conscious of that. Because there's many people who are conscious of that, but reject that because it don't come with their particular belief system or religious system or religious format, so forth and so on. But whatever the case, it's a choice. You hear me? It's a choice. You know, I say that because information is always changing. People are always changing. Life is always changing. Everything is always changing. And as people, the worst thing that we could do, or as spiritual beings having a human experience, the worst thing we could do is be wrong about something and know that we wrong about something, but out of fear or pride or ego or whatever the case may be, not wanting to look wrong in front of those we associate ourselves with or our peers or what have you. Um, we'll dismiss that just to look right, knowing that we wrong. There's something wrong with that, you know. Now, I don't know if that's you. I can identify that being me a time or two. You hear me? But if it's something wrong with that, and if that's you, you always got a choice to change that. You know? How many of us made New Year's resolutions for 2026? I didn't, but I'm only asking because I'm already who I wanted to be. Message. I'm already who I wanted to be. But it's not about who made New Year's resolutions for 2026 more than who accomplished them. Who accomplished. If you made a New Year resolution in 2026, and don't get me wrong, and how I may have sounded, there ain't nothing wrong with making New Year resolutions. You see, I just didn't have to make none because I already been directing myself into where I want to go, where I want to be, who I am, and just expanding in that. You see, it ain't nowhere I gotta go necessarily, or anything I'm trying to be necessarily, or anything I'm trying to have necessarily outside myself. Because everything that collapses into my reality is a reflection of me, and if it's not, when I'm seeing anything that collapses into my reality, that's not a reflection of me, but I might have allowed it in, mm, you know, by operating in a space uh, outside of my normal operation. You see, and allow something to come in through that crack, then you know I know what to do when that show up. And I say that because there's a lot going on right now. It's a lot going on planetarily. You know, it's a lot going on universally. You know, it's a lot going on internally, more so. You know, it's got a lot of irritate it to the point that it's not that the energy is irritative or the energy is anxious or the energy is aggravating, you know. But that's the effect that it's having, you know, on many of us at this time. You know, it's not that the energy is triggering, but that's the effect that it's having on us, a lot of us at this time. You know, I'm not going to separate myself from the whole, you know, because I'm here with us. I'm feeling it too, but it's not about what's going on. You know, it's how we handle anything that goes on. You know, so for those of us who find ourselves in anxiety states, you know, this is a time that to ask ourselves, you know, why am I so anxious? What am I so anxious for? You know, those of us who find ourselves in experiencing impatience, it's a time to ask ourselves, you know, what's the rush that I feel going on in me? You know, what's in me that's causing me to want to rush? What's in me, you know, that's requiring this impatience? And examine that, you know, because as I said previously, it's a lot going on. So it's a time to ask ourselves a lot of questions, you know, because we don't know what we don't want until we don't know what we want until we know what we don't want. We don't know what we want until we know what we don't want. In order to find out what we don't want, you know, we got to go through some things in order to know what we do, you know. So this is a time to be very self-reflective, you know. And besides, we in retrograde anyway. If yeah, I think we still in retrograde. But if y'all know, y'all know. But this is a time to really be self-reflective, self-analyzing. You know, um, self-gentle, self-kind. So be kind to ourselves. Be gentle with ourselves. You know, um, if you got something to prove, you know, what are you trying to prove? You know, if you think you got something to prove to, if you think you got somebody to prove something to, you need to examine that. You know, um, as I said before, many of us who have been doing the work, we in a we in a comfortable space, yet uncomfortable space. We in a comfortable space because it feel good to be in the space that we have allowed for ourselves according to the work that we did, but it's uncomfortable to the extent that the spaces that we have allowed ourselves to be in, you know, we're not used to being in it. So we're gonna need to know what to do, or know how to be in the spaces that we have found ourselves in, because you know, just to be raw and uncut, it's so many levels. I didn't know it was so many levels to peace, you know. I really did. I didn't know it's so many levels to peace. But information is always changing, you know. It's so many levels to a lot of things, you know. um, it goes as far as we could take it, you know. And it's as I was saying, self-reflection, self-analyzation, you know, putting ourselves under that magnifying glass. You know, I'm led to speak back on the inner dialogues, you know, the inner conversations that we having with ourselves. You know, be aware of what we be aware of what we carrying, you know, concerning unhealed and old baggage. You know, be aware of what we carrying concerning old identities. You know, cause behaviors come with the identity. Knowing where is the truth concerning oneself. Where do your truth start and where do your truth begin? Not what you think about it, but where is it? Where is it? What is it? You know, what is it to you? We get wiser through experiences. You know, we get wiser as we age. You know, and at the same time, we stay younger through the company of youth, through the company of the youth, um, concerning our inner child. And for most, I think I can speak for most of us, which is just a few of us, when I say who we are today isn't who we was yesterday, or who we have to be tomorrow. Message: who we are today isn't who we were yesterday. Or who we have to be tomorrow. So we could choose to learn, we could choose to grow, we could choose to stay strong, we could choose to keep going and push through, we could choose to love, we could choose to live, we could choose to feel, and we could choose to heal. So that every day we get to meet the best version of ourselves. But it's a choice. But it's a choice. And I don't care what you want to do. I don't care what you want what I don't care where you want to go. You know, I don't care who you see yourself as being. Because as you believe, so be it unto you. But you gotta do the work to get there. You gotta do the work to get there. So, what are you trying to prove? And who are you trying to prove it to? You know? I hope my volume good too, because I think that I'm not sure if I think it sounded like one of my videos was low. But yeah. I just wanted to put some things on our brain, you know. Um I'm moving with the shifts, continue to expand, continue to evolve, you know. We gotta stay we gotta peace, peace, get some peace. If nothing else, get some peace, you know, get some peace, get some positivity. You know, everything ain't love and light. Um, but everything ain't darkness and misery either. You hear me? We gonna go through things, you know, to see what we made of. Since we gave ourselves this experience. So peace and positivity, encouragement, you know, motivation, blessings, healing, you know, love, light, the shadow, and all that stuff. You know, we gotta work. We gotta work with what we gave ourselves to work with. You know, to work through it. You hear me? And you either in the moment, having the moment, or you are the moment. Which one are you? But whatever one you decide, remember, it's a choice. You know, um, I appreciate y'all who did come through. If you haven't by now, you know what to do. You know, touch that like button. It's free. It don't cost you nothing. Um, drop a comment if you got one. Drop a question if you got one. Uh, salute to my Indians. Salute to the Common Conscious family and Chol tribe. You know, and live by not what you see, but who you know yourself to be. And lock in with that. Until we do it again, peace. I'm known as Sabu. Be you how you be you.